The Riddler confuses Richmond. Paco launches on 200. Hindy goes bang, and this is my first ever intro. This is the Sash. Definitely not the official podcast of the Essendon Football Club. I'm your host tonight, Jesse. Thank you for having me. Filling in for Rob. The Winter Worries have got to the good man. And joining me tonight are James. How are you?
G'day, Jesse. Good to see you in the skipper's seat tonight, filling in for Rob on debut, leading the charge. Good to be here, mate. Another win for the boys, which is good. It wasn't as convincing as we all would have liked, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit, but good to be back in the studio, and we're second on the ladder.
Yeah, I know. Second on the ladder. I still can't believe it. And you aren't wrong. Certainly some bads to get through, and plenty of good as well. And also joining us is Ryan. Good to have you, mate. How are you?
Thank you, Jesse. Happy to be back. First of all, if anyone has seen Rob, please call Crime Stoppers. We're suspecting that there might have been some foul work at foot, not looking at anyone in particular.
Yes. No, I'm not guilty for any crimes other than leaving Dreamtime at halftime over the weekend, which is where we will probably start our discussion. It was too overwhelming for me. I had to get out of there. My fiance wasn't enjoying the supposed amount of testosterone that I was letting out. I had probably had just one too many beers behind the bar, and I was getting very, very rowdy, and I actually just didn't want to watch the second half. I was too nervous. I ended up watching it later, Moneyball style, as I do, but had to leave the stadium, which, you know, was probably the first time that I've done that. The only ever time I actually did that was back when we were, I think it was like 2007, Dreamtime at the G, and it's when Richo pushed Fletcher in the back, and it was a reversal. We went on to kick a goal, which was the winning goal, but we were down by about 4 goals with 2 or 3 minutes to go. And I remember leaving with my dad at probably with 5 minutes to go, sort of down by like 27 points. And we get into the car and we hear the Essendon song playing. And we both just look at each other and go, what have we just done? Anyway, made the same mistake and we won. So maybe that's the key to Dreamtime is leaving.
I was going to say, you only do make that mistake once, but apparently it's going to happen a few more times to Jesse.
Yeah. Well, what were your thoughts, initial thoughts on the game? Right?
Initial thoughts, I think I was in a very similar headspace to you. If the reaction of my cats while I was watching the game was anything to go by. I was probably a little louder than I should have been, a little bit immature, but I don't know. I expected us to learn some lessons from the North game. I thought we would understand that no matter where anyone is on the ladder, that we've got to take them seriously, you know, and if we're a good team, we should be, you know, winning these ones more comfortably. It was, I'd say good things, but probably more bads than goods, even in a win, which I know it sounds weird, but overall, I think a lot of John Worsfold learnings to take out of this one.
For sure. And we will change things up slightly today because this is the show that I'm hosting, not Rob, and I will actually start on the bads, but we'll get to them in a moment. James, what were your thoughts?
Frustrating game to watch is the first point I put down. So I'm not completely disappointed in you leaving at halftime because I can actually understand why you would want to do that. I was sort of right up in the nosebleeds in the AFL members, so it was all pretty chill there, but I was reading on Bomber Blitz that there were some pretty rowdy Richmond supporters getting around, so I'm glad you evened up the cause there.
Were you on the Blitz at the stadium?
No, not at, just reading afterwards
and
seeing some complaints in there, but
yeah.
I'm glad you were flying the flag much like I was. Really frustrating game to watch. Once again, we failed to put away what is a poor team, particularly with their injuries. Obviously, they were up for the game. They came to play as we would expect they would in what is probably their biggest home and away game for the year. But yeah, pretty disappointing. Pretty similar feeling from last week. In a lot of ways, they played their slingshot, run and gun style of footy, which did beat Sydney, and I'm still not sure how that happened, given how Sydney are going at the moment. But we just couldn't put them away. You'd sort of get that little gap, and you thought, oh, the next goal, the damn wall might break. Well, we never got that. Never got that goal. Clearance game was really disappointing again. It's been our strongest area throughout the year. We lost it last week. We lost it again, and we can talk about the reasons behind that. But obviously Goldstein had a really poor game. Obviously we still got the win, but it's concerning for the next couple of weeks where we're playing probably two of the stronger midfields in the competition, arguably. But there were certainly some positives as well. Probably the defensive end for us and the back six, which we can talk about. But I know you want to start with the bad, so we can jump into that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, before we do, it was one of those games where you just sensed that their premiership players would stand up, and Dusty first quarter 8 disposals and a goal. You're like, oh, here we go. Shai Bolton was very busy. Camden McIntosh was, he kicked their first goal from 55 out. Liam Baker, all of their good players. Dan Rioli, they all stood up all day. They won clearance very convincingly, and it felt like the entire day the ball was just bouncing their way. I don't know if either of you have come to notice that. I mean, football is a game of luck at times. You create your own luck, and I'm certainly not talking about around stoppage or clearance because, that's tap work. But it felt like every time the ball was in a scrimmage or, had been spoiled, it just tended to land straight in Richmond's lap all day. And, the fact that we were comprehensively beaten in the middle of the ground, all of their best players were standing up, and a number of their younger players that had only played, 5, 6, 7 games also playing quite well. The fact that we still got the win and we came out with the points is and the same for last week against North Melbourne is a massive step in the right direction for the club. And it would be hard to say 12 months ago, whether or not we would have come out with the chockies in that game. So certainly some positives there. Let's talk about struggling at the clearance. Okay. So the last 2 weeks, we've been in our differential probably negative 10 or more. And it seems to be that it hasn't been a significant talking point, but I'm not sure if either of you watched the Jimmy Bartell snippet on Goldie, and it was a bit of a, thank God someone's seeing what I'm seeing here, because he showed his age last week and this week. And I'm not necessarily one to say that we should rest him. I do just feel at this point in time, we've got Nick Bryan in the VFL. He had another game, over 40 hit-outs, over 20 disposals, over 10 clearances. It's a triple-double in the NBA standards and a goal. And he's done that back-to-back weeks. It just looks like, Goldie's work around stoppage is still all right. He was pretty well beaten in stoppage over the weekend again, though, and he looked really off the pace. He's just not a good centre bounce ruckman, though, and I've seen that all year. We've really dropped off significantly in our clearance game, but particularly our centre clearance game without Drapes, and he just doesn't look like he can jump off the ground. And I mean that, in full seriousness. He really, he was slipping over. He was second to the contest. He just needs some assistance out there, and I'm not too sure, James, what your take on Goldie was over the weekend, but it was by far and away, I would say, it was probably one of the worst rucking performances I've seen of an Essendon footballer for a really long time now.
Yeah, I don't want to be too negative on him and sort of come on here and bash him, but I tend to agree with your point there. I've said on the podcast each week when we sort of talk at the end around what do you think the changes are going to be, I sort of say, Goldie be rested this week, and I reckon I've said it for 4 weeks in a row. I'm sort of amazed that he hasn't been. Now, I know obviously Draper getting injured meant that we probably didn't have that luxury, although you talk about Nick Bryan, the Big Bryan show. He's obviously putting up some ridiculous numbers in the two. I haven't forgotten. Maybe you have.
I did forget for a moment there.
So obviously, we say, well, Draper's gone down. It has to be Goldie, but Nick Bryan's performing really, really well. Whether solo rucking for the last couple of weeks combined with the fact that he's played every game for the year, was just a bridge too far. Maybe we went one game too many with him. Obviously, Nank's a really good ruckman. He's sort of that more your bash and crash, really physical guy, which sort of matches up a little better with Draper.
Yeah.
And I think we spoke earlier on in the year on this podcast around having Goldstein and Draper. It's sort of the two polar opposites. Your crafty tat ruckman in Goldstein, and then your bash and crash style player in Draper. And I think we really missed Draper probably last week, but certainly this week as well. Again, the obvious change for me this week is Brian in, Goldstein out. I know some people will say we'll play Goldie and sort of give him a chop out and probably bring his on-field time down. But I think he just needs a week off.
Yeah.
Let him rest up. We've got a big game in 2 weeks, and they've got Pitnett, who is a very physical ruckman, similar to Nankervis in a lot of ways. So I'd give Goldie the week off, send Brian up to the Gold Coast, and make sure Goldie's cherry ripe for Carlton in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, look, I think what you're saying about Draper is so 100%. Like the last 2 weeks, you couldn't have wanted Draper more up against the two ruckmen that we've been up against.
Yeah.
What you've said about Nankervis and I think it's Sherry for North Melbourne. Both of them are the exact type of guys that I think Draper's built to play against. Big bodies that it's not so much technique, it's more just winning that contest, bringing it to ground, and almost just getting a neutral ball and then hoping that the quality of our midfielders will be able to get over the line. Look, I've been hearing James on the podcast every week, and I've been thinking every week with him, yep, this is the week for Nick Bryan, this is the week, but it just has to be the week this week up against Gold Coast. I think it's a perfect excuse to give Goldstein a week off. It's round 12. So what's that? Pretty much halfway point of the season.
Yeah.
Traveling. It's a perfect excuse to bring the young guy in. And the numbers you pointed out earlier, 23 disposals and 46 hitouts. Goldstein had 16 over the weekend, against arguably, he's a good ruckman, but Nankervis certainly isn't, I wouldn't call him a top 10 ruckman in the comp.
Not this season.
No, but to be beaten 50-24 in the hitouts is just brutal. And I just think particularly looking forward as well, at the start of the season, we were talking about Goldstein as just being he's almost like a teacher for Drapes and for Brian, and the idea was he'll play a bit, but he'll get rested in parts. I think we were just surprised at how well he was performing at the start of the season, and we thought, oh, geez, he's been rejuvenated at 860 years old. But I think now's the time looking forward. Nick Bryan is that guy that I think we want to be, along with Draper, our premier ruckman for 10 years. And now's the time, I think, to bring him in, and not only for us as fans, but hopefully to allay any concerns he has that he does have a place in our AFL side, not just our VFL side.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. And I don't think it will happen. I just know that from what I've heard about Brad Scott as a coach, I don't see there being a scenario where Goldstein doesn't play, but I do hope that there's a scenario where they both play. And the idea of Brian against Witts does concern me, but having both of them work him over is something that I'd feel more comfortable with, and allowing Peter Wright to play an entire game in the forward line where I really do think that we can expose them. That's been a massive strength of ours this year. And, something that we can touch on later. An interesting fact, though, I was looking at this earlier. So there's only been 1 or 2 games this entire year where we've lost hitouts and we've won clearance. And every other game this year where we've won the hitouts, we've won clearance. And for whatever AFL commentators try to argue that tap outs or hitouts are not an effective disposal, or, it's a rubbish statistic. Well, the stats don't lie there in terms of our win-loss ratio and, the hit-outs to clearance differential. So, yeah, it should be interesting to see how they decide to go with that this week. It's probably also just worth mentioning Perkins had a very down day, which, you can afford for younger players. How'd you see his game, James?
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed in Perk. I know that Rob messaged through the group and sort of mentioned he was having no impact, and I was sort of thinking the same thing. And A lot of that's to do with how good he's been for us this year. We've sort of now got that expectation that Caldwell, Durham and Perkins will have an impact in the centre. But I was sort of looking a bit more into his stats. I was at the game, so sometimes it's sort of hard to see where players are lining up, and I'd had a few cold ones myself, so sometimes it gets a bit blurry.
As you
So
should.
up in the nosebleeds, you're not sure who's actually in there. But
Concerning going down the stairs after a few cold ones when you're
start
that
holding
high
that
up.
rail a bit tighter, yeah.
correct.
But one thing that I noticed, sort of looking back at the game, looking at the stats, was we seem to favour Stringer in the centre bounce this week a lot more than what we have. We've certainly used him in periods, and I thought Stringer was particularly good on Anzac Day, going in and nullifying De Goey and playing a really important role. But Stringer had 15 centre bounce attendances this week. Perkins and Caldwell had 9 each. So we really favoured Stringer over those two, who, while Stringer can play an impact in there, I think Perkins and Caldwell have shown that they're sort of our go-to in the middle.
Yeah.
I did hear a bit of a whisper that there was a few boys under the weather this week, Perkins being one of them. So whether that played a factor, I'm not sure. He did have a good last quarter. He had 6 disposals up until 3/4 time. He did have 6 touches in the last, but 1 clearance for the game, 12 touches is well below par for Perkins. And yeah, we really missed his X factor and grunt work in the middle. And with no Parrish and no Setterfield, I think Perkins plays a really important role going through there. So we certainly missed him, but I'd expect him to bounce back this week.
Yeah, it was just a bit of a nothing game, wasn't it, really? I mean, he had a good disposal efficiency at 75%, but he just didn't... I just kind of almost forgot he was out there for a while. Him and Elijah Sardis kind of had similar games that I saw them in patches, but I just didn't find them actually having any impact, except for Elijah Sardis having that very, very nice smother in the last quarter. But it's interesting you made mention of potentially him being a bit crook during the week. I think it was Jake Stringer after the game on Fox. He made mention of the fact that he'd been sick during the week, and it's funny how sickness can make some guys have a quiet game and other guys kick 4 goals. Yeah, look, I think it was just a nothing game from Archie, but I think we kind of forget sometimes how young he is still.
Yeah.
I mean, it was even Jordan Ridley today was talking about how it was really nice to see the young guys putting their best foot forward. He's 25. Just relax, young guys. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
Just calm down. I'm 36. It's making me feel ancient. But I think across the board, I think we can give Archie Perkins we'll give him the mulligan and go forward, and hopefully has a good game against Gold Coast.
Yeah, look, I mean, having a glance at the people who were attending our centre bounce over the weekend, you look at the names in there, largely Perkins, Caldwell, Durham, Stringer and Merritt. And, you're taking Stringer and Merritt out of there. That's a really young and inexperienced midfield. I mean, between those guys, they wouldn't have 30 to 40 games purely playing in the midfield between them. And, it is, I think, something that we need to sort of take away from the game is understanding that the level of effort and performance we've seen from Perkins, Caldwell and Durham and I think Durham had a fantastic game, by the way. I do think that Caldwell was unusually quiet over the weekend as well. I don't actually really think that... I mean, he attended quite a number of centre bounces, but again, he just didn't really seem like he had the same influence. And to be fair, Jai, throughout the season, I don't really think he's shown great capacity and influence at a centre bounce. He's better coming off the square at half forward, on the wing, and he's really good around the stoppage, but... He doesn't. Our actual win rate percentage is the lowest when Caldwell is in the rotation of midfielders at centre bounce attendance. And courtesy to the Don the Stat guys for sharing that a few weeks ago. But again, to expect these guys to beat the level that they've been playing at week to week, we have to expect them to be down slightly on performance due to their age. And yeah, obviously. Not the day for us, but again, when your ruckman is just getting comprehensively towed up and you're not getting first use, Jimmy Bartel mentioning, how as midfielders, you're positioning yourself to sort of run forward of the stoppage at times. And when Dane Curvis was consistently getting over the top of Goldstein and hitting it forward, you're already on the back foot, and your whole setup, you're setting up to win the clearance, not defend it. And probably a bit of a learning curve, I would say, for some of those younger guys to maybe understand how to defend better and read the tap of their ruckman rather than working off Goldie in that circumstance. It's going to be challenging this week against Gold Coast. I'm just going to say that if we don't fix up this part of our game, I have us down as an L this week if we don't perform. I mean, no one's managed to beat them up there this year, so it's already going to be a monumental task. But yeah, there's going to be some serious need to change things up, and I wouldn't really be looking too much at the midfielders at this point in time. I think the focuses, as we've mentioned, are on the rucks. Ryan, do you have any other bads, James? Any bads?
1,000. They're probably not so much bads. They're kind of a bit nitpicky. I just thought that, there's certain players that when they're on, they light up the room. TikTok has just, supercard after supercard of them. I think Matt Guelphy's that type of player. And look, 9 disposals, 1 behind. It was the sort of the flip side of what he's been the last couple of weeks. And I've always felt like there's no real sort of just an average game from Guelphy. He's either lighting it up or he's absolutely missing. And aside from arguably one of the best bumps going around in, I think was it the second last quarter?
Yep.
That absolute bump. And when I saw it, I immediately prayed. I'm like, please don't hit him high. Please don't hit him high. But Matt Guelphy was one of those guys. I just think he just had a really quiet one. And I guess you could probably say a lot of guys had quiet ones too. I mean, even Peter Wright's the same. But I just think I wish we got a few more average games out of some of our players rather than the glitz and glamour or absolutely no result whatsoever from them. I don't know. What do you think, James?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think to defend Guelph there, I suppose he plays that high half forward pressure role where you don't get the rewards every week. And I spoke about this couple of weeks ago, maybe last week, that what I'm enjoying about our forward line this year is the goals are getting spread around. Langford goes goalless one week, Peter Wright kicks 4, Stringer pops up in the first quarter and kicks all of them for us this week. Guelphy gets on the end of it a couple of weeks ago, he misses out this week. So I think to try and turn a negative into a positive, the fact that a couple of our forwards have down games and the goals go elsewhere, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But in saying that, I probably agree with you that for Guelph, it does appear to be everything or not much. And I think if he can find that consistency, that's going to go a long way in his game. But probably that sort of second tier of players that we have that have performed really well this year probably all seem to kind of take a step back over the weekend, and it was probably one of those games where we sort of look to our stars to really, really shine and get us over the line. And it's probably the first time this year that we've sort of said that, which again is great. We're sort of getting away from that, but yeah, hopefully it was just a one-off.
It's funny you make that point about us focusing on some of our stars this week, because I felt like Zach Merritt had a all right, fine, I'll fucking do it myself sort of day,
Yeah.
He just
did it well.
Oh my God, didn't he? But I just want to make 2 more complaints because I don't want to go full Mert. I do want to make 2 complaints. I think we have still had that issue on the weekend about transition. Remember at the start of the season, it was always like, oh, we're kicking really great scores, but we're getting caught on transition. I felt that on the weekend we might have fallen into that a couple of times. And the one that I wrote it down and I've got it in bold, it is these shitty little suicide handballs to guys who have a defender right on them.
Yep.
It is killing us. Handballs to ruckman's feet, and then and Dale Tapping even made mention post game about it, that it's just the over possessing and the overuse of the ball. I think it's probably one of the core reasons why we only won by 2 goals and we didn't go away with it. I felt like we went into our shell and just handball, these short little handballs.
It was very cute football in the first half. We didn't adjust to the conditions well, which is what Dale was mentioning. So I do agree with that. And just uncharacteristic errors, missing handballs completely. So many hand passes to the feet of our players. It just seemed like the occasion, and rightly so at times, did get to a few of the players. And, you know, in all fairness to Richmond, they brought the heat all day. They hunted us hard. Their pressure rating was really, really good up until maybe the last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter. They, you know, really, they brought the heat that we would usually bring. And, you know, in saying that, a good to take away from that would be we still out-tackled them, and we still had more contested possessions than them. The ball didn't fall our way. We lost clearance, but we had more inside 50 tackles. We had 14 inside 50 tackles again. That's a huge statistic. So there's still a lot of good to be taken away from that. But it did seem like the Essendon of old just not coping with wet conditions and pressure football. And that's not really something that we've seen this year. We've played wet weather pretty well, and we've played pressure football not terribly as well. We obviously got suffocated pretty badly by Port in that game over there, which, you know, we don't need to dwell on any further. You mentioned that you had one more, though. Is there one more in there?
You know what? I reckon we'll just leave it at that.
All right.
Well, I've got one more.
Yeah,
I'm going to
bring it on.
I'm going to take it, and it'd be remiss of me not to bring it up. But
Bring it on.
there's a man that made his way to the wing on the weekend.
Oh, lucky that Rob's not here. I know who you're about to mention.
His name is Jake Kelly, and he's had a great last month. I'm pretty off him to start the year, and it's not his fault. It's the coaches. They want to play him up the ground, and he's not a wingman. He's a brilliant lockdown defender on the best small forward in the opposition, but for some reason we want to push him up the ground. We want to play him on a wing, and it's just not his role. And I'm sick of talking about it, and I wish I didn't have to talk about it because I wish we just didn't do it. But if he's not playing that lockdown role on the small forward, he's not in the team for mine. I think we've got better options to play up the ground. You got a bloke called Archie Roberts in the twos, who seems really silky with his skills and his ball movement. The ball just gets stuck in Kelly's hands. He doesn't know what to do with it. He chips it backwards. He chips it sideways, and it kills all our momentum. And again, it's not his fault. He's just not that sort of player.
Yeah.
And again, people will say, oh, well, maybe we didn't have a matchup for him in the back six. Well, when you prepare for the game and the coaches are looking into that, if that's your decision that we don't have a matchup for him,
Then we don't
play him.
Yeah.
Take him out of the side. Bring him back in when we do have a matchup for him. That's what good sides do. That's the luxury we afford ourselves when we have the depth. I know Cox went off injured, and he was obviously playing on that wing. Whether that was the reason why, I'm not sure. But I cannot wrap my head around why the coaches don't see him as just playing that role, because he does it so well.
It wasn't, because Sardis came on and played on that wing, and Kelly was playing on the other wing from the beginning, which, is perplexing. I mean, it's frustrating when you see these scenarios unfold as a supporter, and you can't do anything about it. And, you know, Nick Hind, he came on in the fourth quarter and replaced Kelly on the wing, and he had 13 disposals and a goal, and he was the game breaker. Hot. And the speed on the wing, it's massive for us. We haven't had quick wingers in a really long time, and Hind is really putting his hat in the ring as a game breaker for us. He's showing the same form as what he had off half back in 2021, but he's now more involved in the play on that wing. And I mean, it's pretty cut and dry for me at this point in time that obviously Nick Hind's deficiencies are more pronounced when he has games where he's only getting the ball 10, 15 times. But when he's getting the ball 25 times, he has just the same amount of deficiencies with his ball use as other players. But what he can do with his speed and run and opening up the game, I mean, there were so many times where we looked really flat over the weekend, and we just got it to Hind on the wing, just a handball over the top, and it completely opened up the game. And there's no other player in our team, maybe aside from Davey, that has that speed to open up the game like that. A merit as well, you'd have to say. I'm big on moving Hind to the wing. The alternative being, if you're going to play Kelly there, then put Redmond on the wing. Yeah. I will go as far to say Redmond was drafted as a midfielder, as a half-forward midfielder, and he's got the run, the capacity to play on a wing. I know Rob's probably going to be laughing listening to this say this is the 7th player on the list you've mentioned to play on the wing who doesn't play on the wing.
It's a good option, though. It's a good option.
But if you're gonna have to, if you don't want to, if you're thinking of readjusting your defense, then Redmond clearly prefers the attacking side of football. He's a good defender, but he's a great overhead mark. Play Kelly in that lockdown role and put Redmond up onto the wing, or you don't play Kelly and permanently play Hind there for the time being.
It's such a good transition into the goods that we had on the night, because Hind is aside from probably Jordan Ridley, he was my highlight of the evening, because what you were saying is so perfect, that he was the only guy, particularly in that last quarter, I felt that he just put the ball right on the wing, just put the ball under his arm and just went, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to take on my opposition. I'm going to outrun them. I'm going to break it open. I mean, we felt so stale for so long, and he was it felt like I'd gone back in time watching him, Can you be the most improved player in like your third season? Because compared to last year, this Hind that we saw last night, and probably we've actually seen it evolving over the last couple of weeks. He's in a contract year too. I think that might be a factor. But just seeing him, I don't know whether he's got the license to or not, but I love seeing him absolutely take the game on and just go for it. I mean, 25 disposals, 2 goals, 3 tackles, and he just works. He just really looked like he was working. I loved it.
One thing on that point is that when I was sort of on the AFL app, sort of having a look at the stats, previewing for this, and I saw his heat map on there, and the whole ground is yellow. And I think that proves your point. You know, he was working so hard, and I'm not exactly sure what role he was told to play. I think he was just told, just run and carry and get behind the ball and run forward and burn your opposition player the other way. And it's exactly what he did. But yeah, that heat map's a funny one, because literally he's had a touch everywhere on the ground. But that's what he provides. His versatility will keep him in the side, because we can deploy him anywhere. I think he's a great sub player, but he's playing above that level at the moment. And again, Jesse, you've named 4 or 5 players straight away, which I would put in front of Kelly in terms of playing on the wing. So I'm sure a lot of Essendon supporters are agreeing with us, but the coaches obviously see something there. Whether Scott doesn't value the wing position as much as what other clubs are, I'm not sure. But I've said this before on this podcast, that you look at the top clubs and they have real assets on the wing. I think of Goulden for Sydney. You think of Langdon for Melbourne. You think of Josh Dacos for Collingwood. Like, these are real top tier players in their side. And for us, it seems like the wing is just we'll throw our spare defender or our spare midfielder out there for a bit. And Heppel was on the wing at some points. Sardis was on the wing. Davey Jr. was on the wing. Kelly was on the wing. It just seems like an extra spot on the field where we just throw someone. So I wish we'd value it a little bit more and put some time into it and make it a real asset for us, particularly at the MCG, where you can really expose players going back the other way.
Yeah, he's been a real energizer bunny for us, and it's something, as you said, we're really stale over the weekend, and we've lacked a bit of speed in the team. Now that we've got the list that we have, I do have in the run sheet here that good old Rob wanted me to just put in a quite an I would say intelligent / punny song that I believe we all need to start singing for Nicky Hind when he's out there, and it's Sweet Nicky Hind, ba ba ba. So I feel like if Hindy scores, we need to get that one going.
He really is sick.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Hindy was listening in, because he's played an absolute blinder, and if that's going to get him up each week, I'll keep singing it.
Yeah, well, that's 2 out of the last 3 weeks. He's had over 20 touches and a couple of goals, and you're taking that every day of the week. That's Nick Martin last year in his absolute prime, and the last point on him there, he'd be a really difficult matchup because he's not just fast, but this year he looks really, really fit, and he will absolutely burn you on that attacking run if you're not occupying the defensive side of your game.
And he believes he can. Yeah. That's the important thing too. He's not afraid to do it. He really, I just see it in his eyes. It's just something goes wrong. You see it in his eyes. He goes, I've got you covered. And he just goes. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it would be rude not to mention the great man himself, but what a fantastic game to come back to as your first game. Jordan Ridley just reminding us of what we have missed and lacked, and just what a fantastic football player he is. There's just not many AFL footballers that can walk in, play their first game after 10, 11 games and in front of 80,000 people, take over sort of 10 intercept marks, 31 disposals. And, he really, at the end of the day, he won us the game off his own boot. He was the general in defence and, geez, it was good to see him, wasn't it?
Yeah, the stat line is pretty ridiculous. 31 disposals at 87% efficiency, 14 intercept possessions.
Huge.
So like every time they kicked it there, he was there to mark it, and his confidence from the get-go, he's had a long time out. He's been, struck down by injuries for really the best part of the last sort of year and a half, 2 years. So for him to come back with the confidence that he played with was fantastic, and I like how the club managed him on his return. I know Brad Scott sort of mentioned in a presser or wherever it was that he sort of told Ridley that he'd be playing a half of twos, and Riddle sort of looked at him with disgust, but I sort of liked that.
He had a point to prove, you could tell.
Yeah, let's not rush our really good players back, and let's not be desperate like perhaps we have been in the past. And he was chomping at the bit, and he played like that too. And geez, I love that he got on the end of a goal as well, and the boys got around him. It was so well deserved. I sort of mentioned to a few mates as soon as we recruited Ben Mackay, I said, well, it's great that we've got Mackay, but watch how good Ridley's going to be now. And we haven't got to see it. We got to see it on the weekend, and just touch wood that they can stay on the park, because that's as solid a back six has played for Essendon for a really, really long time. And I know we weren't, playing world beaters, but you can see that back six is going to stand up against the best. I feel like he is the missing piece that we've been waiting for, and now we've got him.
Yeah, Jordan Ridley paired up now with Mason Redman again is just, that's all Australian right there. And they played all Australian football on the weekend, and God, we needed them too. But it's just, I don't think you could have a better return, just getting that goal. It's his second of his career, pretty much on the 50 was he about, do you reckon?
Yeah, about 45.
About 40, we'll say 60. It was a perfect exclamation mark on a night where it just felt like every time, as you were saying, James, the ball went in and pop, there he was. And I forgot how much I missed him. Those kicks out of the defence. You just feel comfortable when he's got the ball in his hands. It was great to see, and I pray that he gets to stay like this for the next 10 years.
Yeah, great to have Rids back. Great to have him back. Paco, 200th game, and geez, it was a great start. What did he kick? Our first three goals?
Yeah, he was the only one. He was the only one that was actually knew where the goals were.
He was the only one, although there was a couple of times I reckon he probably could have given the handball, and he went, nah, fuck it, I'm gonna break a tackle and snap it myself. And I'm glad it went through, because I reckon
that was such a good goal.
Scott had the spray ready for him on the phone when I think it was that third one where he had a handball on the inside, and he just cut back in and shrugged that tackle. But as long as he kick him, it's all right. But he was clearly up for the game, as you should be in your 200th. And one of Rob's favourite goals from Paco is when he lines up right in the back 50 on the pocket and slots it. And he had another one of those on the weekend. Starting to become quite confident in him from there, which is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah,
maybe not so much 20 out set shot, but yeah, Paco from there, he loves it.
Yeah, and just good to see now the potency of our entire forward line. I mean, if it's not Wright, it's Langford, and if it's not Langford, it's Stringer. I mean, when was the last time one of our key forwards didn't kick 4 goals? It was Wright last week. It was Langford the week before that. This is Stringer's first bag of 4 this season. Langford should have had 5 realistically. He missed a couple of shots that he would normally put away fairly easily, and I think he has the right to miss a couple of them. Wright was absolutely nowhere to be seen over the weekend in the forward line, and it's just been that type of season for him thus far. He's just not. He's either been really impactful or almost zero impact whatsoever. But it's just beautiful now that our midfielders are lowering their eyes, because we have so many other options. It's not right or bust, and geez, we're a tough team to defend. If it's not if it's not one of those boys, and it could be, Guelph bobbing up and kicking three as well. So we're really, I mean, you were talking about the defence, but our forward line, now combined goals wise, I don't actually know if there's a forward line that is combined for their three players being in there. They're three keys that have combined for more goals than ours. And I was looking at that just from looking at the Coleman, and I know that we've got Jones that has kicked maybe 26, Stringer's kicked 20 or so, Wright's kicked 16, and then you've got Jones who's kicked 10. So, that's a very good output from your forward quadrant. And it was good to see Cads out there as well. I had him down for 3, and he missed 2 in the first quarter, and I was like, oh no, if he had to kick those 2, far out, who knows what he could have done. But he, as Scott said, he looks like a ready-made footballer, and geez, he offers a level of athleticism that you don't really see in our other forwards. There's this X factor that you can see in him, and he looks like he's going to be a really exciting prospect for the next 10, 15 years for the footy club.
Yeah, I like what he brings to the table. He certainly has that X factor about him, and sort of bit of that swagger, which I like. Obviously, he couldn't get on the end of one, and people sort of look at his stat line and think, I didn't really do too much, but I thought he had a good presence. I thought his ground ball work was really good.
Really good.
A lot better than what I thought it would be. And I saw someone sort of mention that the timing of his jump to the ball, if you go and watch it, it's quite an awkward sort of time. He gets up quite early, and it sort of catches the defender off guard. And I saw someone made a comparison to Charlie Curnow. Now, certainly not comparing him to Curnow in terms of standard of footballer just yet, but I could sort of see the comparison when you talk about that athleticism and agility and spring and being able to leap early and get his hands to it. I think he's got a bright future, and he's got something about him. Will he keep his spot this week, though? Do you think that Jones comes straight back in and Caddy has to buy his time, or do we sort of think that Scott will give Caddy sort of a run of 3 or 4 games now that he's in the side?
I think it'll be really challenging for him to keep his spot. I think, we know about, you were saying earlier, Jesse, about Brad Scott and how he uses players, or, he's far more inclined to use an older player. So I think Harry Jones will be more inclined to come straight back in. I think Caddy, he looked quite comfortable, but I don't think any more time in the twos is going to do him a disservice. I think it was great for him to get the experience, particularly on that stage. But I could see him moving out, and considering they're suggesting that it might rain up on the Gold Coast, I wouldn't be shocked if they went for maybe a shorter team going into the Gold Coast game. But it was a great debut from him. Shame he couldn't get a goal, but yeah, otherwise I thought he looked very comfortable, and I loved his groundwork and just effort. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was quite intelligent with the handballs that he did give off, and he did have some composure with his kicking inside forward 50 as well. Again, he's going to be an absolute generational talent. And, lastly, it goes without saying, but, the skipper, Captain Merritt, just always stepping up in moments. How many games this year has he just been on the end of a ball and kicked a goal when we need it, and kicked that captain's goal? Not to mention he had another 31 touches and the most touches out of all of our midfielders. But, it's just another great game from him.
Yeah, keeps on keeping on. Merritt's probably the one part of his game that if you had to nitpick out, it was probably hitting the scoreboard. He's doing that this year, and that was sort of the missing piece for his game, and that's why I think he's getting so many plaudits this year. I've always thought he's been underrated, and I've always put it down to us sort of not seeing any success and him sort of being a forgotten man. So I don't think this is anything new from Merritt that we haven't seen or that we didn't know that he had. I think with the others around him supporting him and the success we're seeing, he's finally getting the plaudits from the AFL community, which is great because he bloody deserves it. And he's been there through the really shit times. And I really hope we can keep the ball rolling so he can see some success that he so deserves. But yeah, his goals seem to be coming at really crucial times. I remember that goal, which was very similar to the one he kicked against Richmond on the weekend against Adelaide, where he got the crumbs and ran through. And I sort of said at the time that if there was a button you could press for Merritt to bob up and kick one, I would have pressed it. Well, it was similar timing and a similar situation in the game. So, yeah, that scoreboard has been something that he's sort of been missing, and, yeah, he's hitting it this year, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolute ripper game. Well, before we take a break, lads, do you either have any other goods or bads that you want to chat through, or should we wrap it up for a minute?
I reckon let's wrap it up. I reckon some pretty sexy hot takes coming, I'm sure.
Can I just do a really quick one?
Yeah, of course.
He's sort of been a bit of a, I don't want to say whipping boy, but I reckon for some blokes he has been, and that's Jayden Laverde.
Yeah, great game.
I was not sure what his place was in the side with Ridley having to come back in, obviously us wanting to get games into Zach Reid. I thought Laverde had an outstanding game. 21 disposals, 10 contested. He took the Dustin Martin
and he
deep forward
him.
matchup and did so well in the contest. I know Dusty kicked 3, but it wasn't from one-on-ones beating Laverde. It was from other situations. And I thought his offensive game was really good. That's probably his weak point. 21 disposals, used the ball
took the
reasonably
game on,
well.
Didn't he? He ran forward when he got the ball.
If you go back and watch the replays a couple of times where he leaves his man, comes up, takes the ball on the half volley, or just does enough to kind of trap the ball before it gets out the back, which we know is how Richmond like to play and how they kick their goals. So I thought I'd just quickly mention Lav because I know he's been out of favour a little bit and people sort of think that he's the first guy out. I think it's going to be pretty hard to change that back six if they continue to play like that.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on his game?
Oh, look, I just, I've definitely been probably one of his biggest critics, just because I feel that, the way that defence is developing, it does feel like at times he does get left behind. But look, to his credit, he just works hard and he was just really relentless at the contest. And you're right, he took probably the hardest opposition on the weekend with Dusty. It's very hard to fault his effort, and it's going to be really interesting when Reid's available and even Cox obviously now he's been cleared of all injury. It'll be really interesting to see how we line up going forward because for the first time in a long time we seem sport for choice, particularly in the defence.
And he offers us. My concern, if you were to do a direct swap with Reid at this point in time, is that Laverde offers speed that Reid doesn't. And, albeit Reid is supposedly a generational talent, and from what I've seen is unbelievable, he now is being able to play on people his size and smaller than him. And Dustin Martin is well regarded as one of the best contested marks in the AFL. And Laverde, similar size and strength, was really, really good on him over the weekend. And there was a few times where the ball got kicked to him and Laverde, and Laverde didn't have front position. He had, front position Laverde, and you just thought he's going to get pushed under this, and it's going to be out the back. He's going to take the mark run on a kick goal. And he just held his ground, got a fist in, and, I mean, if you can do that against Dusty, you can, in my opinion, take on almost any third forward. And it looks like he's gone from taking the number 1 to taking the number 2 to now taking the number 3. And, if he keeps attacking the football like he is, coming off his man, playing with confidence and rebounding the way that he did over the weekend, you can't fault him and you can't drop him. And as you said, it's an absolutely awesome problem to have.
Great time to move him to the wing.
Careful, we joked about that with Kelly last week and look what happens.
Yeah, that was one of my players I actually mentioned to Rob, put him on the wing. So anyway, let's take a quick break, lads, and we'll jump back in for some hot takes. Welcome back to the show. Now, our good friends at Tickverse have put together a bit of a giveaway. So they actually have quite a number of tickets available, which they are offering to our beloved faithful for free to go up and watch the game in the GC this Sunday. So that's Sunday, 4 p.m. Now, it's obviously not flights included. Just thought I'd make that clear, and you're not going to get a 5-star hotel with it. But, if anyone is, any listeners are in that area or that are flying up, DM the page on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter and say, "Sweet Nicky Hind." Plus, show us proof, that you either have flights booked or you live within 3 hours of the Gold Coast, and you'll be able to win some free tickets to the game. So, thanks to Tickverse, limited amount available. As I said, must share a photo of you. Oh, I haven't said this, but share a photo of you at the game and tag us just to say thanks. And hopefully we can beat those bloody coasters up there where they haven't been beaten this year.
Yeah, they're a bit scary up there. They don't seem to travel that well, but that midfield's got me a little bit worried, but should be a good game. And I'm hoping the weather's all right. I know you mentioned maybe a bit of rain up there. I don't think that'll suit us at all. I'd rather it 25 and sunny and no dew on that ball because, even on the weekend it was a bit dewy and we just didn't seem to handle the conditions that well.
Be good. Peter Wright just showing them how it's done. Dry weather football. Even better if it was wet and Peter kicking 6. That would be fantastic. Lads, should we jump into some hot takes?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, as now the show has evolved and we've got our fantastic intro, it'd be rude not to play it. So here we go, lads. Let's get into some hot takes.
Thanks, Rob. It's that time of the week where we get some totally rational and well-adjusted opinions onto the pod. On the Sash, it's Hot Takes.
Hot takes.
What a beat.
Sorry.
Thanks, Rob. It's that time of the week where we get some...
You really enjoyed it, Jesse.
I loved it. And that's me hosting this show, guys. Terrible with technology. So we've got our first hot take here. Matt Namack. Let's see if we can find you here. Matt. I can't find you, Matt. So I'm going to go with Air Jordan and a language warning.
When I see Jordan Ridley taken to the field, God, I hope his fucking quad has healed. Brady always says when it's right, playing Jordan with Mackay's got me so excited. Jordan Ridley's in flight. Pew! Intercepts all night. The Tigers can all suck shit.
To have that much time on your hands.
Nice.
Brilliant.
That was really good.
Getting quite a lot of songs coming through. I'm really enjoying them.
Yeah, who would have thought that the Essendon faithful were such musicians?
Beautiful
But
voice too. Beautiful.
fantastic. Nailed it. Next up, we've got Nick Hind, GOAT.
I love you, Ridley, and if it's quite alright, I need you, Ridley, to warm the dreamtime night. I love you, Ridley. Trust in me when I say, and here's what I say. This is Nick Hind's world, and we're all just fucking living in it, aren't we?
The songs continue.
What are the chances?
Brilliant.
That was not intended that I just went 2 back-to-back
Can we
voice
go?
memos.
Keep them coming.
Can we
Yeah.
go 3 from 3?
Yeah, let's go 3 from 3. Back to back to back.
Wow, I've got
Oh.
some breaking news for you boys. So Jordan Ridley has come out and announced he's a new dad. And his son is the Richmond Footy Club. Suck shit.
Oh, there you go.
That's old school, that one.
Well done. Well done. Next up, who have we got? Who looks good in here?
I love this lucky dip system.
So we've got Ferkmeniston.
Yeah, it sounds sensational.
Let's see, 57 seconds could likely be a tune. See if he's got the guitar out.
Hey boys, got a bit of a different hot take here. I reckon Lurker is that guy that wears the bag over his head at the footy. Bagman bomber. Feel like that makes sense considering we talk about him as if he's the Stig. Thoughts? Also, I'm not sure why everyone's having a sook about the game in the comments. We actually didn't play bad. I thought a lot of players stood up that, normally passengers in other games. Laverta had a great game. Ridley, he's amazing. Caddy had a decent, debut. Got the dub. And a few other boys in the middle. Good tackling pressure in the forward half as well. Guelphy was good. But yeah, everyone should just calm the fuck down. We won the game. Yeah, they got close, but I'd never felt like they were going to win. So Yeah, just stress less, boys. Go Dons.
Nice, well said. It is amazing how quickly you become entitled as a supporter when you're getting wins on the board. I feel like any win a few years ago we would have taken, but in saying that, when you see a standard of football that you have seen consistency in performance with over a number of weeks, I feel like probably the overarching concern for a lot of supporters at the moment is understanding what happened last season and leading into the bye. We all know what happened after the bye, and I feel we've probably all got a bit of trauma from last year, hoping that the same thing doesn't happen. But, when you... Last season, we just scraped home against North. We just scraped home against West Coast, and then we versed a decent team and, two contenders at their prime, and we got blown off the park. So Gold Coast and Carlton this week, in the next 2 weeks, should I say, are really going to be true tests to see where our level of footy is stacking up with, the list and where we're at the moment. And I think I'm definitely nervous about the next 2 weeks.
No, I'm nervous about the next 7, next 8. I'm not sleeping well. I'm concerned, but no. I think you're right. There is actually you could look at the next 2 weeks in a very similar light to the way we looked at the Giants and the Pies. Obviously Carlton, as much as I hate to say it, I think they will be there come the end of the season. In the 8, and God help me if they win more than 2 finals. And the Gold Coast, if they find a rich vein of form, they could do anything. They got a really good list, so it's really important that we put our best foot forward in the next 2 weeks. But I'm also really loving the Bagman Lurker conspiracy as well. I'm
yes.
loving that. I really think that went under the radar.
All right, we've got Tony Green next up.
Good win by the Bombers. Happy to get across the line. Would have loved a percentage booster. But is there anyone else, or is it just me being a cynical Essendon supporter for the last 20 years, that just worries about being top 4? Because if we're top 4, we don't lose 1 final, we lose 2, and the memes go out of control 7,000 days. What's better than Bombers losing 1 final, losing 2?
He's right.
Let's hope not. Go Bombers. Go the Plains. We're top 4, but I am a little worried.
I never thought about it from that perspective, but that is concerning.
It's frightening. I don't like it, James. James, tell me. Give me the positive.
I was just thinking only Essendon supporters could be worried about finishing top 4. And if you had to mention that to me at the start of the year, I would have been happy to worry about it. So, I'll take that, and we'll worry about it if we get there.
Yeah, spoken like a true scarred Don supporter.
I love the rationality in your voice. I love it. I need it.
Shouldn't be rationality in hot takes, should there? Get rid of that.
No, you ruin it.
Yeah, save that for later. We got Matt Nemec. Thanks, Matt.
Firstly, up the fucking Plains. Second on the ladder. None of us expected this. Unbelievable. Secondly, though, why did that game feel a little bit like fingers in the cracks of the damn wall? Had a few concerns out of that one, particularly around the contested footy. Anyway, on to next week. Up the Plains.
Well, we did win contested footy by 2, so +2's not bad. And I think that's probably something that we're going to have to come to expect now that we're a top side, is that we're going to start being hunted by teams and not be the hunter as much. Thoughts? Queries?
I wasn't the only one that thought the fingers in cracks comment wasn't going into a damn wall.
I heard fingers in there and I blacked out. So
I looked at James. We had a very serious look.
Yeah, I blacked out. I didn't hear anything after that. Sorry.
Next up, we got String Time. Musical.
Hello, I am Stringer. I've just kicked fucking amazing goals from the fucking pocket. Hey, just kick it to me out there, cunts. I will do the rest of the work. Go the fucking Dons!
Nice. He's certainly great from that pocket, but not very good from 25 out directly in front. It's quite confusing.
Genuinely makes no sense. How can he kick it from the wrong pocket on the right foot and 20 metres out, and you just go, when you're at the game and he hits that pocket, you go, he's got this. But 20 metres out, you go, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Well, look, Rob hasn't put this one in the.
Mate, you're the captain
the-
now. You can do what you want.
I'm the captain. I am the captain. Anyway, Rob the Oracle is the name of this one, so I thought it would be rude not to give it a play. So I do apologise if it's completely outrageous. Thanks, Rob.
Hi there. My name is Rob the Oracle, and in the premium podcast on Thursday, the preview show, I said that the Riddler would go on to win Best on Ground. And onwards to the Brownlow. Fuckers! Up the Riddler!
Thanks,
I think I missed that pod.
Rob. Yeah, didn't see you here, but
Good on him.
Nonetheless, I appreciate the take. Who else we got in here? Let's have a look.
Surely there's a lurk at a finish, isn't there?
There is a lurk at
Is
finish,
there?
but
Let's not get too excited. He may or may not have
This is why I'm
lurked his way
coming
in. All right,
send
we've
one
got
from the cave this week.
Not Sure has posted one. Thanks. Not really sure who you are though, but thank you.
Well, I don't know about other people at the game, but there was a horrible reflection off a toe ball running around out there. Happened to have a red sash and wore the number 19 on the back. Nah, all well and good. I'm not sure about every other fucking fan out there where are we good or are we just teetering and waiting for us to fall off the edge of the cliff and drop off like we did last year? Or should I just be sucked back into this club once again and just be like, nah, we're fucking good. We're going to win the flag. Rah, rah. But I feel like I'm lying to myself if I go do that. Go Pines.
Great, grade A. Don's trauma there again.
Don't trust us. I wouldn't trust us.
One week at a time.
I still don't trust us. I'm just petrified every week.
We might win a flag and people are like, nah, don't trust him. Couldn't trust him as far as I could throw him.
Everyone thinks at work, everyone's just every week they go, oh, another good win from the Dons. I go, nah, shit, nah, we got holes, we got you wait and see. And they just go, why are you so miserable? I said, 20 years, mate.
Yeah.
20 years of just nothing but misery and false dawns. I can't help but be this way.
We could win a flag and against North the next year. We'd be like, oh, I don't know.
Not sold.
Yes, no, I do think you've just got to enjoy the wins. You've got to enjoy them. Don't think too far ahead. Just enjoy the fact that we had another win. You know, they don't come easy in this comp, and you know we're doing it. You know, first this is the longest winning streak we've had since 2000. So
Shit.
We really should get around the boys, and all you can do is just continue to try not to be so jaded and confused and look at yourself in the mirror and question who you are. Just get to the game and give the boys support as much as possible. Next up, we've got Joldwell's right boot.
So I've had almost 24 hours to mull over what I saw and absorb it a little bit, and I'm pretty concerned with our lack of pressure that we displayed last night. And even against North, it wasn't as good as it had been. I feel like if that is a sign of things to come, we could be in a bit of strife. Outside of that, a couple of things that I really liked were, firstly, Jai Caldwell's forward entries were just, they gave me tingles in places it should never give a straight man. Another positive was Guelph doing the little things really well, especially that bump. I tell you what, that gave me a stiffy. But what gave me an invert was him playing on with a minute 20 when he could have just taken 30 seconds and iced the game, even if he couldn't have made the distance. But instead he played on, smothered off the boot, and it just went ping down the other end. That sent me into another atmosphere, saying, all in all, I feel like if we carry this form on, we are not going to go well against Gold Coast. And I feel like, and I really hope I'm wrong, I feel like I can smell a losing streak coming. Really hope I'm wrong.
Thoughts?
I hope he's wrong too. It sounds like he really went through it during that game as well. Experienced a whole lot of
He
different...
mentioned Stiffy as well. But, James is about to walk out of the studio. James is out of here.
I was surprised we hadn't had a Stiffy yet with that many hot takes. Rob reckons
correct.
that's the most common thing. So there you go, Rob. I know you're sitting at home, mate. There's one for you. But no, I get what people are saying. Obviously, last year we sort of started to play poorly, but we were playing some poor sides and we got through, and then obviously the better sides put us away. So I can understand what people are saying. I just hope that, we say we've turned the corner this year. This is another test of, well, have we turned the corner? And again, Gold Coast, Carlton, two really good midfields. Gold Coast at home, a really good side. Carlton at the G, obviously playing some really good footy as well. So we've got a great opportunity in front of us before the bye to prove that we've turned that corner. Let's hope that we have.
Yep. Best thing about being 8-2-1. It's in our hands.
Yep.
We can write the narrative. Just head down, bum up, and just pray. Just pray.
Lots of praying.
Just pray. Be religious. I don't care what religion. Just get
Every
on board.
religion.
We need them all.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's obviously difficult to have confidence, as we've spoken about, where you're pretty comprehensively beaten by two sides from a clearance point of view that were both rated in the bottom 8, a little less than that, the bottom 5 or 6 clearance teams in the AFL, including Richmond. They were actually the worst clearance team in the AFL and absolutely mopped us up there over the weekend. What is positive, though, is that I was quite concerned as a team that we were clearance or bust, and it appeared that way against Port. They smashed us out of the clearance, and we got comprehensively beaten. If you look at the last 2 weeks, we've been comprehensively beaten out of the middle, but where we've punished teams is on turnover, and we've been one of the highest intercept teams in the AFL over the past couple of weeks, which is just a new dimension and an extra string to our bow in terms of the way that we can beat teams. So it's if we can get that all together, if we can dominate the clearance like we have and beat that intercept team, I have a feeling that's where you'll start to see us beating teams by 10 to 12 goals pretty regularly. And I have no doubt that at some point, whether it be this year or over the next couple of years, we will be able to put that all together. Draper's meant to come back, as we were saying, after the bye. And, if we can hone in on that craft, get it back to where it was a few rounds ago, it could be exciting. And I think that's where, as a team, you've got to look at it from both sides of the perspective. And, we were comprehensively beaten in clearance. Yeah, maybe against a better team with more potent forwards, it may not have gone that way, but our intercepting game has been fantastic. We're punishing teams on turnover, and that's what good teams have done, and we haven't done historically really for forever, since I can remember. So, yeah, let's just buy in.
Jesse, this sort of optimism is giving me tingles.
Don't say the S word. Don't say the S word.
No, that's James's word.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's plug on. Luke, short and sweet.
We're maybe not shit. Or maybe we are. Not sure. Give Nick Hind the Brownlow. That's it. Cheers, boys.
I love when they do cheers, boys, at the end. Lee's up next. Got a couple more of these to get through, lads.
Westfield, Airport West, Shop 76, Specsavers, the closest Specsavers to the hangar. For all those people that can't see how good Jane Laverde has been, just follow your nose to that shop and get yourself sorted out. Because if you can't see how good he's been this last month, you shouldn't be allowed to drive. Seriously, he's been awesome. Nick Hind, whipping boy number 2. Oh, he went old school last night. Absolute vintage Hindy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, anyway, that's pretty much it for who played well. But, Ridley. Oh, my God, I almost forgot. Yeah, anyway, righto.
Thank you very much. Well said, Lee.
I shouldn't be asking this all these years later. Is it Laverde or Laverde?
Laverde?
Sounds nicer. A little bit la-di-da.
It does. It does sound a bit more la-di-da. Well said. All right, next up we've got Jack. This is a slightly longer one, so put your seatbelt on.
We're the Bombers. The Essendon Bombers. And we're here to show you why. We're the big planes of the big sky. We're the bombers, and we're flying high. Don't know about you guys, but I've always loved the Eagles song, and I think we should take it. How good. I don't care about thrashing. Who gives a shit about it? You've got to get there in the end, and we're getting there. We're winning. That's all that matters. We're playing on the big stage all the time, these curtain raiser games. They always change the energy of it. It was always going to be like this.
Mm.
We're second on the ladder. We're playing Gold Coast next week, which I actually think we might that could be the thrashing game. Who knows? Don't care. Just get the 4 points. That's all that matters. Ridley, absolute god. Thank you for you. And Jesse, you have a sexy voice. Go Dons!
That's my good friend Jackie. Thanks for the shout out. Appreciate it. I am hosting today, so if you want to see my face, jump on the YouTube. Respect. I thought that, I mean, it's hard not, it's your voice straight away. I knew it was you, but you put your name in there as Jack, so I do apologize for not saying Jackie. Thanks for your post. And let's hope it isn't that smashing that Jackie was saying next week.
Yeah, when she said thrashing, I wasn't picturing us being on the right end of that. I think she probably was.
Yeah.
She seemed quite positive with how we're going. But yeah, if you're going to take a close win, happy to lock that in right now. I'm not worried about thrashing Gold Coast. And just on the crossover with West Coast, the last time we had that was when you wore the hat with the eagle on it, Ryan. So I was getting flashbacks to that.
Yeah, I can only apologise, and I believe it was a falcon.
Did you see Langford's falcon over the weekend?
I don't think I did
his
see
very
it.
first mark that he took and kicked a goal, it hit him square in the face. It went straight
still
through his
marked it.
hands and hit him square in the face, and he marked it.
That's how good he's
That's
going
how
at the
good he
moment,
is.
yeah.
You don't even know when he's falconed it,
No.
and he's still doing it. Next up, we've got the dish. Thanks, the dish.
This one goes out to my one and only true love.
Yes, bring it on.
Jake Stringer. Jake, you're so cool. And with 4 goals, you're gonna rule.
What a voice.
Jake, understand. We're gonna love you till the very end. Paco, 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 I love you. Oh. Well, we got the win, boys. 4 points is 4 points. And all I want to say to Richmond Footy Club and Dustin Martin, congratulations on showing up and playing your grand final against the Dons, but it wasn't good enough to get across the line. So, Dusty, grab your knife and fork and start eating my ass.
That was a real journey. That was a real journey.
God.
Started with Barry Manilow and ended with, I don't know, Darren from Frankston.
What a voice! That was fantastic. Rob did put on the run sheet rude ending, so I was wondering where he was going to go with that. Well done, the dish. And weirdly, he's put in brackets. Maybe no, I don't know why some of them has brackets, but his email is Maggie15129. I'm not going to say the rest of it, so we can keep it confidential.
Sounds like a burner.
Thanks, Maggie. Appreciate it, Mag. And one of my favourites from overseas in Scotland, Rory, you're a good man. Great to hear from you again, and looking forward to hearing from you. So let's get this show on the road.
See the bombers fly up, up, and make us all shit ourselves. Fucking hell. That was squeaky bum time. Thought aspects of that was quite good. I never thought it was going to be the hammering that the media was trying to make it out it was going to be. Forwards played well.
even Caddy, first game's tough one to come in for. Paco was unreal. Defensively, transformed with Ridley, and he just dominates, makes everyone else's job easier. Easily Laverde's best game of the year because he's not having to do so much. In midfield, piss poor for a second week in a row, dominated around stoppage, clearance. I thought really shined a light on Goldstein and the fact that he's maybe not quite the player that we'd built him up to be the start of the year. Fine when he's dovetailing with someone else like Draper, but on his own, I think, kind of struggles. So might need to get Brian and go back to the 2 rucks. But overall, win's a win. Still up the ladder, and it's all just about securing the 4 points these next few weeks and getting into finals. Can worry about form later. Go the Plains.
Smart guy. Pretty much re-emphasised everything that he said.
I was just thinking, listening to that, it's good to get that reassurance from Rory that we're on the right track and talking some sort of sense when he's ticking off the points that we've covered tonight. So, always enjoy Rory calling in. It sounded like there's a bit of rain over in Scotland there, pouring down, but Rory sounds up and about after another win.
I was going to say, unsurprising Scotland, and it's pouring.
Sounded quite nice.
Yeah, it was like a
Soothing.
sleep tape or something. I'll take Rory to bed every day. Oh, Jesus, that didn't sound right.
This is a good time to segue into our final hot take of the day, and we all know the grumbling.
The bear exits the cave.
The man with the bag on his head. Lurker.
Unconvincing, underwhelming, uninspiring, unremarkable, uncertain, unsexy, unkempt, uncool, uncommon, unusual, uncharacteristic. Up, mighty Bombers.
Nice. I was hoping he was going to say planes. Maybe one day.
Is it a contract thing? You can't say planes.
Lurker has a license to do whatever the Lurker would like to do.
Yeah. Well, good show, lads. That is really where we're going to wrap it up, I would have to say. Any final thoughts?
Congratulations on hosting for your first time, Jesse. It was a phenomenal effort. I'm shitting myself about Sunday. James?
Yep, pretty similar in the graveyard shift Sunday afternoon up at Gold Coast. I was going to say danger game, but I think Gold Coast are good enough now that we don't have to say that. It's going to be a real test for us. Interested to see what we do at selection again, particularly with the ruck situation. I hope, as I said, we've turned the corner, and if we have, I think we find a win this game. I think if we win, it'll be an ugly win, but I'll take that right now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And just a reminder, Tickverse, get your posts in. Let us know on the Insta, Facebook pages. If you're living in the area, we'd love to throw some tickets at you guys. Send us a photo if you're at the game, and we'll have our Thursday premium show on as per usual. Go Dons. Good work, lads.
Go the Plains.
Go Plains.